Funny thing happened one day when I woke up. I realized that the term carpe diem or seize the day was causing a lot of anxiety for me. Why? Because I started to realize that it was too generalized of a term. Seize the day. That's the quote. But what in that day are you looking to seize? What checklist of items have you prepared by the moment that you've woken up? And if you don't get to all of the items on that checklist, if you happen to create one, then what type of anxiety would you feel or guilt? Instead, being a person of science, back and forth of some sort of fate or faith, you don't need to know science and physics or be quite interested in it to understand that everything in this reality is made of frequencies. Electrical impulses. The matter in your body, the matter of an inanimate object, the sound of my voice, colors, smells. It's all frequency. If you hear my voice as it gets lower, those are lower frequencies. Higher pitched sounds, higher frequencies. So I decided that each morning I would just change to a specific frequency, a specific energy. And rather than seize the day, incrementally seize my goals towards the frequency that I've pointed to. Take, for example, every morning you get in the car and you put on the same radio station. And let's say you listen to rock and roll. And there's only one station that you listen to. And every morning when you get in the car, that's the station that you tune to. Or maybe it's sports radio. Well, when you go do something in your life and you speak to somebody and they say, hey, have you heard this song? And it happens to be a rock and roll song that comes onto this radio station that you're listening to every morning. You may be able to quote that song in and out. And that person may say, wow, you are very in tune or understand music. But the truth of the matter is, you may not know anything other than the rock and roll because you have not changed your frequency or radio station to say hip hop or country or sports radio. By what I mean is that you become well versed in the frequency that you most tune to, whether you realize it or not. And the progression of yourself will only be towards what you consciously tune to. We do not need to wake up and wonder whether or not our body will breathe for us, or whether our heart will beat, or whether our body will tell us when we're hungry in order to eat. So the conscious decisions that we must make is the tuning of the conscious frequency to our goals. And those goals can be generalized, but to a more specific result. And just as long as you constantly wake up and tune to that specific frequency, whatever it may be, you will incrementally progress to it. But just like everything in life, there's a yin and a yang. There's a term that says for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. So what I'm saying is, I found it best to have an equilibrium, an understanding. If my goal is to not only relieve my own anxieties, but talk about it and record it, so maybe someone can understand who has my same issues. And we know that many of us do. I am not here for self-help. I'm not here as a voice for you to listen to persuade you to do one thing or the other. I'm just letting you know what helps for me. And the broad general term of seizing the day has been a guilt-driven thought that I may not have done everything necessary within my day to carpe diem. And guilt is an emotion that is only perceived within yourself. Guilty about your actions, other people. But guilt is a dead emotion. It's an unnecessary emotion. It does nothing in the terms of progressing you, because guilt is either guilty of the past or guilty of what you may or may not do in the future. If you're interested in science, physics, quantum physics, the idea of time and space, and even if you aren't, you know inherently that things are frequencies. You may have heard the term of law of attraction. If you promote your energy towards something, it will ultimately be attracted to you. And I am not a true believer that that is the case. I feel like that's a great way for someone to create a video in order to project something onto someone to think that all they have to do is think about it and it will come. Write it on a board and look at it every morning and it will come. That is not the nature of our reality. It is not only the direction of frequency, but is the energy that you consume towards that frequency. Time and space, in a scientific sense of it, all top scientists today know that time and space is relative and probably all encompassing within this present time. And what I mean by that is the day that you walked into kindergarten for the first time exists parallel to this moment right now. That all time is essentially within itself. And what that means is that the past is only a recollection, a memory of things that we perceived collectively at that time. If you want to know about World War II, you are going to find out from historians who have researched it, from people who were there. And the collective consciousness of that time period stated what happened. Their perceptions, their preconceived notions. We also know that the future doesn't necessarily exist now. We feel time as a linear path, a start to finish. Although the reality of time is that it all exists at once. Time, again, is a perception and a frequency. And your mind is tuned, per se, to the frequency of now. Utilize your present to understand that that is all that you really have. And you can make minor adjustments to your frequency in the present to feel better, to relieve your anxiety. After all, what are we here to do on this linear time scale of life? I've sat in podcasts and I've sat with friends and they've said, you know, you have a pretty wide range and openness to what we are, what reality is. And you have a pretty astute understanding. And I'd like to know from you, what's the meaning of life? I laugh because I've been asked it many a times. And I simply say, of course, that is based upon the individual. But what do I truly think the meaning of life is? Simple. To live. Simply to live. Now, doesn't matter if you're a scientific person, a religious person, spiritual, someone who defers and says, I'm not sure. You would like to believe or understand, or maybe you know, and no one can tell you different, that you are a spiritual being. And when you no longer exist in this reality, that you will go on, maybe infinitely. Well, just understand your innate, inherent abilities to understand things. And you will know that this is a binary type of world, a binary reality. That if you have black, you must have white. For light, there's darkness. For up, there is down. If that were not the case, then those would not exist. That's what we mean by binary. For every inside, there must be an outside. And for every outside, there must be an inside. You are within this universe. So what does that say within our reality, which is never contradicted? That although you are inside this universe, there must also be an outside. And if you are a spiritual person, then you may say that you will go on infinitely. So if you were to go on infinitely outside this universe, then you must understand that you may go inside as well. So what does that mean? That means that you, as a spiritual being, decided to exist. And if you're a spiritual being who may be all-knowing, who has spent their infinite time in heaven, being able to frolic and do whatever you want, the best pleasures and supreme happiness, you may sit down on your cloud and say, for better or for worse, I would like to understand what it is to live again. And that is the nature of our reality. We have decided to once again exist. And we may decide to exist an infinite amount of times. And science tells us, in most regards, that our thoughts of what I'm speaking of seem to be true. From an emotional perspective, from a scientific perspective, I think that when we look at what we are in reality, we tend to think that the universe exists and we are a product of it, rather than we are the universe, or the universe is us. It's our playground. Everything on a scientific scale, down to the atom, even the smaller parts of the atom, they call the God particle, quarks, things like that. What science has seen from its calculations is that we are at the most minute scale, perfectly placed in coordination to time and space and matter. And that if it were to differentiate, even on the most minute scale, say 0.001, that everything would crumble and the universe would not exist and we would not be here. So the idea that this is just a statistical standpoint of we got lucky has broken down to make sense to no one of educated mind, whether it be through theology, religion, science, physics. We are here. That's easy to see. So why we are here is to live. And we cannot live, which is our own personal spiritual mandate, by running each moment of our conscious minds with guilt of goals that we can never attain. You are your worst critic. So it's not bad to have goals, but it may be bad for your overall progress to have such lofty, unattainable goals like carpe diem. On a general sense, sure, we all would love to seize the day. But how are you to do that when you're not feeling well, when something tragic may happen? Reflect inwards, understand your own consciousness, breathe, relax, take the time to understand that all you have is this moment now, and again, and again, and what you may be able to do in order to point that frequency in the direction to incrementally accomplish the next feat. We have clouded our minds with distractions. Things are given to us in such fast terms and methods that we're incapable of distinguishing things for our own personal benefit. We're too concerned with the perceptions of others and whether or not we pick up that phone call or answer that text in a timely fashion or that email. That is the nature of the society that we live in today. And that builds up to the point where people break. And when people break, all of those people that have come and poked at you and asked you and didn't care about anything other than their own perceptions and needs and wants, they then will speak to each other and say, that person broke. What happened? Look at them. And they state that just literally inches away from probably doing the same thing. And they reflect towards the person that is broke in order to say, look at that, I've kept my sanity. That may work for a while, but you always fail to realize the true nature because you're too busy deflecting from your own. Do not deflect from your nature. Understand it, realize it, because self-awareness is the key to most of the attributes of what we're looking for. Want to be smarter? Be more self-aware. Want to be more intelligent about others? Make yourself self-aware of those people and what they may be feeling. You want to learn a new game, a new sport, new hobby. When you can, change your frequency to that and incrementally progress. Nothing goes from A to Z. Rome wasn't built in a day. That is the major concept of incremental progression. We are incrementally progressing as humanity. Well, some people say progressing, but if you want to look at it on a technological standpoint, we hopefully progress each day. It's incremental. Understand that, and you will relieve the anxieties of feeling that you must go from A to Z within a day. Because in 99.9% of the time in situations is not attainable. Not even close to attainable. Understanding of this will relieve pressure, it will relieve anxiety, and it will give you that breath of fresh air to understand and slow down and accomplish your goals. The only thing that you perceive is your own reality. What do I mean by that? When someone touches you on your shoulder, the reaction to the touch is simply and only within you. Yes, someone has laid their hand upon your shoulder, but those electrical impulses that have then gone to your brain have either relaxed the muscle or contracted the muscle. What I mean by that is, let's take a loved one and you're happy, and let's say you're at a party and everyone's having a great time, and that person that you love comes over and touches your shoulder. That's one feeling. Then if you're at a party and let's say you get a creep vibe or a creepy vibe from someone, and their frequency is not pointed in the direction of you and your friends. Maybe they're the black cloud, or maybe you can see that there's another agenda. Their frequency is pointed to something that might be sinister. And you don't know them that well. And while your back is turned and you're talking to your friends, the person comes behind you because they think that they know you, or they're just taking it upon themselves, and they lay their hand on your shoulder. And that first initial reaction is a tense up, And when you see that the person, you kind of tense up more, and that's not a good feeling. That is your perception, your perceived response to the same sort of touch, just from two different people, two different scenarios, two different frequencies. We've all gone to parties, and when you walk in, you look around, there's people you notice, you look at the people that you call the life of the party, your friends that share the same likes, dislikes, hobbies, frequencies, and you tend to gravitate towards them, of course. And as you're having a great time, say you're at a barbecue, whatever it may be, music's playing, eating, drinking, enjoying, that one person comes that we call the dark cloud. And you may only need to glance upon them for a second, if that, and you understand their frequency. They may have their shoulders down, the way that their facial expression is, their walk. And they walk over, and negative frequency has the ability to disrupt many people aligned in a higher frequency, because lower frequencies tend to be stronger. Think about listening to the radio. Many of us don't listen to AM anymore, but those are lower frequency radio stations. The quality is not as good in an AM radio station, but try it. Next time you take a drive, when you put on an AM radio station, you can drive for hours and still hear that station clear. Not at such a good resolution, sound quality, but you can hear it. Where if you tune to an FM radio station, which has higher quality, it's a higher frequency. And as you're driving, the surrounding or the regional area that that radio station hits is a much smaller square mile radius. Or let's say you wake up one morning, you step outside, you may hear the low bark of a male dog from over a mile away. But you won't hear a small high-pitched dog from a mile away. You'll hear the neighbor's high-pitched dog, which will be annoying to you. Just as it is in primitive cultures, societies, animals, my voice, lower, where a baby's voice, when they scream or cry, is higher, because they're not supposed to be far away from their parents, from their protectors. And if they feel that they're in harm's way or need to be tended to, they will scream on the top of their lungs. And trust me, we will adhere to those screams. In the same sense that if there's imminent danger and I raise my voice in the immediate area, not only is it going to startle whatever is in the immediate distance, but it will also reverberate further distances to let everybody know, I am here. I am the protector. Stay away. So again, frequency has a lot to do, if not everything, of what we do on a daily basis. Point your frequency to a direction that helps you progress. Understand when you walk into an office for the first time or any time that people will perceive your frequency, they will react to it with either equal or greater reaction. If you want to accomplish your goals, understand inherently within yourself, become self-aware of what you are projecting to what other people perceive. And by understanding this further, you will accomplish your goals. You will become happier, and you will understand the nature of your reality better, because that is what ultimately we would all like to do. Until next time, I wish everyone the best. I wish you prosperity and incremental accomplished goals. Take care. Speak next time. Thank you.